All right, we're live.
Yay.
Yay. Oakland wants to be a part of Meet the Director too. All right, do we want to go ahead and get started?
Sure.
All right, awesome. Oh my gosh. All right, so my name's Ellie. I am the Performing Arts Coordinator here. I have my two cats with me too. I'm the Performing Arts Coordinator here at Ethereal Just Arts Council. And if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Brian.
Yeah, I'm Brian Palmer. I am, excuse me, I'm Executive Director at Ethereal Jest, but I'm also the director for our upcoming production of Ethereal Christmas.
Awesome. So I guess we'll just start. Do you want to introduce yourself and talk about a little bit about like your background and experience?
Yeah, sure. So I have been doing theater for most of my life. I did my first production when I was 5. Was heavily into theater when I was in high school. Took a couple classes in college, but I first started really getting involved in community theater back in 2012. I did a bunch of shows, a bunch of different places. Directed my first show in 2014, which was a radio show. It was Arsenic and Old Lace, the radio show. So coming back to radio shows, it feels kind of like coming home because this is where I got started. So I'm very, very excited to be able to work on another radio show. Outside of that, mostly I've been doing straight plays and musicals.
That's awesome. We're super excited. Who else is working on the show? Who are the other members of your team?
So with this one, we don't have a very large production team. We Jamie. Oh my God, she's gonna kill me. Jamie Levitt is doing props for us. She's also going to be working the Foley table, which is the Foley table is where all the vast majority of sound effects will be made live. And then outside of that, um, I don't know that we really have much of a production team for this one. There's not really a set. Um, there's not really too much in the way of the technical side of things. Most everything will be produced and created by the performers.
Yeah, that's what a radio show is all about. Yeah, that's awesome. So we're doing, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're doing two
Two.
separate. We're doing two separate radio shows. What's each of them about?
Yeah. So the first one, it's called "Twas the Night Before Christmas," but it has absolutely nothing to do with the poem or the story. This one is going to be our what we're calling our teen radio show. So the goal is to have all middle school and high school kids do everything for this show. It's about 30 minutes long. The story is about a reporter and a photographer who, as they're getting ready to leave the office on Christmas Eve, their boss tells them that no, you need to go out and find 2 goats and a red wagon for the owner's wife. And so then we follow them as they get into madcap situations as they're trying to go around New York City to find 2 goats and a red wagon. Along the way, they end up stumbling across multiple crimes and even a murder that they, as they're searching for the goats, end up writing multiple articles for the newspaper to go out the next day. So it's crazy, it's silly, it's funny, and it'll be a nice, good opportunity to introduce radio shows to younger performers. The second one that we're doing, it's called The Bishop's Wife. Uh, it's was uh, there was a film version of it. I want to say in the 40s, and then in the 90s they remade it as the Preacher's Wife with Denzel Washington and Whitney Houston. This radio show's closer to an hour long, and this one's for all ages. So there are parts for kids, parts for adults. Uh, any age is welcome. And the great thing about radio shows is if you can do multiple voices, then you can potentially play multiple roles because it's all audio. Like someone in the broader world, like Hank Azaria, turns out he ends up voicing, I think, 30 or more characters on The Simpsons. So if you're someone who can create multiple differentiated voices and characters, then this is a great opportunity to get to play multiple different types of people. But The Bishop's Wife is about an angel who comes down to Earth to help a pastor as he's trying to build a new church. And while the angel's down here, he ends up falling in love with the pastor's wife. And he's left with the choice between doing his job and helping the pastor and then returning to heaven, or giving all of it up to follow his heart. And chaos ensues. Now, with both shows, as a radio show, there will be commercials, there will be music. My intention is, like, once we have a cast, to see where everybody's talents lie, and then use that to then flesh out the world of the radio station. I intend for most of the music to be provided by the performers themselves, so lots of opportunities to sing if you enjoy singing. If you do not enjoy singing, you will not be asked to sing. Uh, in between both of the radio shows, which is the audio story that we're hearing, we will also work with the cast to create the character of the person who works at the radio station. So it's a little bit Inception, where you're playing a character playing characters. And so the characters who work at the radio station, during rehearsal, we will develop the interpersonal stories between them, that maybe you and one of the other employees don't get along with each other. And so we'll find ways to portray that storyline. Maybe some of the other employees are friends of yours, and we can figure out ways to play that. So that way there's a visual story going on at the same time as an audio story. So yeah.
That's great. So I guess the next question you kind of already answered, but
Hmm?
when you say radio show,
Mhm.
what exactly are you talking about? What are you referencing? What's the difference between a radio show and a typical stage play?
Yeah, that's a great question. So back in the day, and we're talking like 1930s, 1940s, radio shows were extremely popular. Anyone who grew up in the 90s might be familiar with Adventures in Odyssey, which was a focus on the family radio production. What it basically is it is very similar to a television show or a movie, where you're getting a full story. Sometimes they're more sitcom, sometimes they're more drama. But instead of watching it on a television, people would listen to it on the radio. And so one of the major differences as a performer is that you have to be able to tell the entire story with your voice. So people couldn't hear or couldn't see your face. So if your character was happy, you'd have to convey that vocally. If your character was sad, you would have to convey it vocally. That all of it depends on the performance of your voice, and you don't get to use the performance of your face in traditional radio shows. Now, with this production, we are holding on to the convention of that this is a radio station, that the performers are performing a radio show, but that the audience that comes to watch the show, that they are, it's like they're the in studio audience the night that it was broadcast. Now, I do want to, as a point of clarification, we are not actually broadcasting. We are just, as a play, pretending to broadcast, but trying to maintain the, I don't know if illusion is the right word, but the concept of this being a working radio station in the 1930s, early 1940s, on a night that they're doing a broadcast of some holiday shows.
Thank you for the. Oh my gosh. Thank you for the clarification. And just to confirm, we are setting this in the 1930s.
Yeah, well, late 30s, early 40s. We
Late
haven't
30s, early
really
40s.
landed on a specific date yet, but that's about the era that we're shooting for. Now, the
Awesome.
two radio shows that we're doing, um, the originals are actual scripts that were broadcast in the late 30s, early 40s. So these are period stories. Now we are going to update them and personalize them a little more. So it isn't going to be the same as if you just pulled up the video or the audios and listened to them, the rebroadcast. So they will be inspired by, but not exactly the same as those original broadcasts.
That's great. Our next question is just what is the theme or like message of the production? What did the playwright need to write? Why did the playwright need to write this story?
So with "Twas the Night Before Christmas," I honestly feel like the main motivation behind it was simply similar to a lot of sitcoms, that it was to have some lighthearted, fun entertainment around the holiday season. The basic message, I would say, is be careful what you ask for, because the boss's wife who requests the goats and the wagon, she does so because she has a couple nephews who are coming to visit for the holidays last minute. But taking well, not so much wild, but not pets, and putting them in a penthouse in downtown New York City, um, isn't really the smartest thing to do, and so it does cause quite a bit of damage and issues for the boss's wife. Which the fact that she is asking them to give up their Christmas Eve, their holiday, their time off, uh, to go run this, I guess you could call it an errand for her. It does seem to be kind of just desserts for her in consideration. Um, but yeah, and then with Bishop's wife, to me, I think that the biggest message there, and there are multiple. The biggest one is like the grass isn't always greener. That it's real easy to um, envy might be too strong a word, but it's really easy to look at the life someone else has and compare it to yours and feel like you've come up short, or to think that their life is better than yours. Um, when in reality, that's rarely ever the case. That we do a very good job, especially today, even with social media, we do a very good job of hiding what we think are the negative parts of our lives, and then basically glorifying what we think are the positive aspects of our lives. Like when you look at Instagram or TikTok or whatever, that you're not seeing the reality of someone's life. You're seeing this very curated, this very polished, pristine version of someone's life. They're hiding all the mess, they're hiding all the chaos and the craziness. And that if you were actually able to live the life of someone else, you would see that it's just as dirty, just as messy, just as broken as yours is, and that it's better to make your life as positive and whole as you can without comparing it to the lives of other people.
So now that we've talked a little bit about the scripts and the show itself, can you tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about the audition process and what people can expect coming into an audition for the show, which are November 16th and 17th, I believe.
Yes.
Saturday, November 16th at 10 a.m. and Sunday, November 17th at 4 p.m. just so
Yes.
the dates are out there.
Yeah. So with auditions, what we will be doing is we will be. I'm not a big fan of having just like big open auditions where you have like 30 people sitting in a room and cycling through. I feel like it's a waste of most people's time, and it's also not a very effective use of everybody's time. So I like breaking it down into smaller groups. So we will take all of the auditioners and break them into groups of, hopefully we're looking at like maybe 8 to 10. It really depends on the number of people who register for auditions, but each group will get an hour to do cold readings from the script. We'll probably play a couple theater games because I do want to be able to see, um, like, do you have the ability to improv, to think on your feet, to create, because this kind of a production, being the fact that it's not bound by normal copyright laws, normal royalties, that we do have the flexibility to bend the story to, excuse me, to be able to add, to create, that making sure that the performers have the ability or at least the interest in contributing to the overall story is definitely going to be something that, although not a requirement or prerequisite. Oh, I said that word poorly. It's definitely an added skill that if you can improv, that definitely will go a long way to help. But not,
Absolutely.
I am someone who does not improv well at all. So this would definitely not preclude you from being there, but it's to get a good idea of like what skills each person brings to the table to be able to better gauge at where the final product can end up.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
And then after auditions, for people who don't know, sometimes we have a secondary audition, I guess, called a callback. Are
Yes.
callbacks going to be happening for this show, do you think? What?
So callbacks are always a tentative thing.
Okay.
That if needed, a callback is a great place to be able to test chemistry between multiple actors. If it gets down to the point where like I have three people that I just cannot decide between for a role, that having a callback to bring them all in and test them off of other people can help make that decision a lot easier. There's also a way that so like, not really relevant to this one, but like in a musical, sometimes the callback is a great way to like test, uh, like, can you take direction? Can you pick up choreography quickly? Can you interact effectively with your fellow performers? Um, Most of the time, I've rarely ever needed to hold callbacks, but I do put them on my calendar just in case they are necessary. Callbacks for us, so auditions, like you said, are Saturday, November 16th from 10 until 2, and then Sunday, the 17th from 4 until 8. If we need callbacks, they would be Monday, the 18th, starting at 6:30. Um, but again, it's rare that I've ever needed them, so I'm not anticipating needing them, but that's when they would be. And we would make sure that um, everyone would be notified if they're getting asked to attend callbacks. You would be notified by Sunday evening. Um, but if you do not get an invite to a callback, that does not mean that you haven't been cast. It does not mean that you're not being considered for anything. It just means that we saw everything that we needed to see from you to be able to make a decision. Now, once auditions and callbacks are done, then my intention is to have all casting decisions, whether a yes or a no, be sent out by Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. Everyone will get an email letting you know if you have or have not been cast by 8 a.m. Wednesday. And then we ask that everybody involved, whether you've auditioned, whether you're cast or not cast, to not post anything, to not say anything until Friday morning at 8 o'clock when the official cast list goes live. It's really important that you don't post early, because if you do, there's a chance that somebody else may not have gotten the information yet. And we don't want the first time they see it be something that you've posted. We want to make sure that everyone has had a chance and had time to get the official notifications before anything goes live. Sometimes there can be a role or two that we haven't been able to fill yet just through auditions. So we also need those extra days during the week to reach out to people, to make phone calls, to make sure that when we post the cast list Friday morning, that it is the most complete cast list that we can possibly get within the time frame.
Absolutely. And then after auditions, of course, we start rehearsals, the rehearsal
Mhm.
process. Can you tell us a little bit about what that process is going to be like, what to expect from rehearsals?
Yeah. So, being that it's a radio show, it means that nobody is required to memorize anything. Obviously, the more you have memorized, the better, because you never know what could go wrong. The script could fall during a performance. We could misplace and lose all of them. You just never know what's going on. So, the more you have memorized, the better, but not a requirement. So, because of that, rehearsal process will be shortened. So normally we like to do 6 to 8 weeks. I believe this one has 4. Um, and then for the first couple weeks, I believe it's just like 2 nights um, a week. Give me just a second. So yeah, the first week is just 2 nights because that's the week of Thanksgiving. The second week it's 4. Third week it's 4 nights. Looks like it's so it's 2 the first week and then 4 the next 3 weeks, and then we're into Tech Week. Now, Tech Week is Christmas, the week of Christmas, so we will move into the performance space on Sunday the 22nd, um, and then we will have rehearsal Monday the 23rd, and then we will be off the 24th and 25th, which are Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and then we come back on the 26th, and that's our preview. So the preview is technically our final dress rehearsal, but what it also is, it's our first run with an audience. Now, previews do have a discounted ticket price because there is that risk that, like, if something does go wrong, we can stop, fix it, go back, and start again. Um, but the intention is to treat it as a performance, and as long as it's nothing major, that anything that goes wrong will just continue moving past. And then we perform the 27th and 28th in the evening, and then the 29th in the afternoon, and then the show will be over.
Awesome. What a process. So that's all the questions I have for you. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about or bring up before we end this?
Sure. I will say that if you've never done a radio show before, then I would consider doing this one. They are fun and they are different than a fully or more traditionally staged production because you do have so much freedom and so much leeway with what we can do and what we can add, and how creative we can be with telling the story. I would also say that if you've never done theater before and you've been interested in getting into acting and performance, a radio show is also a really good way to try it out because, again, you're not required to memorize. Uh, Everyone's on stage the whole time. Everyone is there to really help support each other through the process. So it does give you kind of a safety net to try out performance that a traditional play you won't really have. No, one thing that I don't think we talked about was age requirements. So with Twas the Night Before Christmas, the preferred is, like I said, excuse me, middle school through high school. Now, I know that that's not completely specific. So for me, um, just based on my own experience, when I say middle school, I mean fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grades. I know some schools, middle school starts at sixth, but for us, where it's fifth grade through eighth grade is middle school, high school is ninth grade through 12th grade. So if you're in any of fifth through 12th, you're eligible for that show. When it comes to The Bishop's Wife, there are roles for all ages. So you can, as long as you can um, read, then you are eligible to audition for it.
That's great. Anything else that you want to bring up?
No, I think that's pretty much everything that I had to say. If
Awesome.
anyone, because this will stay up on Facebook for a while until auditions are done. If anyone has any additional questions, you can feel free to reach out to us at info@etherealjust.com. Um, or you can message us through our Facebook page or Instagram or anywhere else that you can connect to us. We always have access to those, and we'll get you whatever answers you have or whatever questions. We'll get them answered as quickly as we can. But yeah, that's about all I have.
Absolutely. So just as a reminder, auditions are Saturday, November 16th at 10 a.m. and Sunday, November 17th at 4 p.m. You can sign up at etherealjust.com. And yeah, callbacks would be Monday, the 18th. And
Hmm.
then everyone will be notified by 8 a.m. on Wednesday, the 20th. And the final cast list will be posted by Friday, the 22nd.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
I do
Great.
want to give a shout out that between now and the weekend of auditions is also the first weekend of our current show, which is The Importance of Being Earnest. That it's in the same venue that Ethereal Christmas will be. So if you've never been to Mad Lab before, that's a great opportunity to get to see kind of the work that we do, as well as meet some of the people that are involved with the organization and get to see the space that we'll be using for Ethereal Christmas as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we hope to see everyone at auditions. And have a great rest of your day.
You
All
as
right.
well.